Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Full Spectrum D&D podcast. My name is Trey.
I am Rungren.
We got some stuff to talk about today.
Yeah.
We wanted to talk some more about Taso, but before we do, I have some exciting news
Okay.
for the D&D podcast.
Right on.
The next book's coming out, The Guide to Ravenloft.
Nice.
Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, I should
of course
say.
it is. Right.
And they've
Because
unveiled...
Van Helsing is taken.
Of course.
But
Yeah.
we're going, right.
You gotta Aluzard it. They have revealed a little bit of the stuff that's going to be in the book. So I
Awesome.
wanted to give a quick rundown.
Okay.
Everybody that's curious. And I'm obviously, Ryan and I both are going to wind up reading this book. When it comes out, we'll do a lot more discussion on it, I'm sure, afterwards. We might do just like a full review.
Right. Yes.
But if you get this book, I'm going to skip the stuff you get from D&D Beyond's version of the book. Because that's
Okay.
exclusive, like dice and themes and stuff like that.
Extras.
Right.
Okay.
The book itself has two new subclasses: College of Spirits for the Bard and the
Bards.
Undead Pact for the Warlock.
Okay.
It also has new lineages for characters that can be descended from Damphirs, Hexbloods, or Reborns.
Okay.
It'll have dark gifts for characters.
Yeah.
Don't know what all's going on with that yet. Excited to
It is
see.
Ravenloft, so yeah.
Yeah,
it makes
makes
back-
sense.
Yeah.
And it will also have new backgrounds and trinkets themed specifically for a horror setting.
So I kind of want to go back because it pretty much sounded like you said they're giving the Warlock a necro
Yep.
version.
We're gonna definitely have to dig into that. I did want to throw out one last thing real quick before we move on. Some new monsters. We don't know how many, but also 30 new domains of dread. So 30 domains of dread coming back from 4th edition, like Lamordia, Dementliu, Calicari, and Falcavnia. So it's not just Barovia now that you can
Right.
use.
Well, that's.
It's good.
So why did they just put out Shadow Realm supplement?
I mean yes.
I'm sorry.
That's a very
I'm
good
sorry.
question. I will say at this point, as a dungeon master, I am so starved for
Yes.
domains or anything like that. Yes, please.
Well, it wasn't long ago they brought out what Candlekeep Mysteries.
Yeah.
Uh,
Gave us a couple more places we could go.
yeah, I haven't, but those are just kind of like quest lines, right?
Yeah.
I haven't looked at that.
Yeah, and not that long ago we got the Theros setting. So it's not like we haven't had any new stuff for DMs, but as usual, DMs get a drip feed
Yes.
of content.
Yeah, and I understand that it's just I enjoy the player content. I like that there's so much imagination there, but it really does. When you're sitting there as a DM,
Yeah.
the characters you got to worry about that character. You're worried about the party, and if you've got all this new stuff and new powers and new things,
Yes.
and people are going to see connections, and in playtesting,
Yes.
everything that's broken doesn't always get found.
That's right.
So it's kind of interesting. I got, I don't know. They seem like because there was only 2 subclasses, right?
Right.
Is there going to be more? Or is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
So I have to ask now, would you prefer that I give you the rundown of the subclasses first, or of the one new monster that's been revealed first?
Give me the monster. I'd like to hear about that.
Okay, this is a carionette. It is a toy or a piece
Yeah.
of art,
Yeah.
like a marionette or a porcelain doll, but you can also use like a jack-in-the-box or a puppet,
Right.
jewelry box ballerina. Any of those can be carionettes. Again, Ravenloft is a horror setting.
Right. Made out of dead meat. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Carionette is a horrifying twist to a beloved children's toy. It has a silver needle. If a carionette is motionless, nearby creatures must make a DC 15 wisdom check, perception, to notice that it's animated and not just a toy.
Right.
The silver needle has a +4 to hit, reach of 5 foot. For one creature, it has a piercing attack that is 3 1d6 necrotic damage, and the target must succeed on a 12 charisma check or become cursed for a minute. While cursed in this way, the target's speed's reduced by 10 feet, and it must roll a d4 and subtract the number rolled for any ability checks or attack rolls it makes.
Ooh.
So it's an insidious little guy.
Yeah. Not much on its own, but if it's sitting off to the side while you're fighting something else and you happen to get too close to that table.
It does have one more ability
Okay.
called Soul Swap.
Oh, that sounds fun.
The carionet targets a creature it can see within 15 feet of it that is cursed by its silver needle. Unless the target is protected by a protection from evil and good spell. I want to come back to this
Okay, yeah.
because that's great. It must succeed on a DC 12 charisma saving throw or have its consciousness swapped with the carionet. The carionet gains control of the target's body and the target is unconscious for 1 hour.
And then it becomes a better Spider-Man than Peter Parker could ever have been.
Yep.
By the way, if you get that reference, if you get the Spectacular Spider reference, props to you.
After which it gains control of the carionet's body. While controlling the target's body, the carionet retains its intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores. It otherwise uses the controlled body's statistics, but doesn't gain access to the target's knowledge, class features, or proficiencies.
So that kind of depends on what
Yeah.
so what those scores are.
Yeah.
There's going to be a pretty big factor in that.
Yes. Here's the kicker. If the carionet's body is destroyed,
Yeah.
while the target of the soul swap is still in that body, thinking, well, that will fix it, both the carionet and the target die.
Die?
Because you killed them. They were in that body. You killed them.
Well, I was thinking because maybe it was in the other one that they kept that body.
No.
And you just got, oh, man.
A protection from evil and good spell cast on the controlled body drives the carionet out and returns the consciousness of both creatures to their original body. The swap is also undone if the controlled body takes damage from the carionet's silver needle, which is a really cool way to do that. Because all that means is that as the party, you won't know this, of course, right away,
Right.
but as the party, you wake up the unconscious guy that is now in the carionet's body.
Right.
It now has the silver needle. If it can stab its own body, it can get its body back. But if you break the doll, thinking that'll stop it all, you kill your friend too.
Yeah. That's rough.
So
okay, go back. Okay, you mentioned go back to your
yes,
protection from good and evil.
I'm so stoked about this.
Just because it gives this spell a use?
It gives that spell a use. You will want to bring protection from evil and good now. I have never once prepared that spell, but now I have a use for it.
Well, it hit me at first when you said that. I was like, man, that is specific. No greater restoration,
Nope.
Nothing like that.
Protection from evil and
Not
good.
even remove curse? No.
I want to know how long it's going to be before somebody homebrews an entire party of players playing as carionets.
Oh, it won't be long. Won't be long.
But that's a cool new monster.
That is pretty cool new monster. It's kind of dark, creepy. Got a Silent Hill feel to it.
Yeah.
I like it.
And I like it that it's new in the shape of it didn't even come from a different edition. We've never had that before. We've had marionettes.
Right.
And we've had flesh puppets.
Yes.
But we've never had these things.
No, it's
really cool.
different. That is cool. I like it.
I like it when they give us new monsters.
Yeah. And okay, and the two subclasses.
Yes. Let's start with your favorite, the College of Spirits Bard. I know how much you love bards. College of Spirits Bards weave tales of creatures who have long since passed from the material plane. When these singers open their mouths, spirits speak through them. At level 3, they get Guiding Whispers. When you join this college, you learn the Guidance cantrip and can cast it at a range up to 60 feet. Increased range permits you to aid party members in situations you otherwise might be unable to because you don't have to touch them to give them guidance.
Yeah.
You can flavor this cantrip as you summoning a spirit to lend a hand. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Very, and this is just my gut reaction. Very shamanistic feeling to me.
For sure.
I didn't, I don't picture the regular
Bard
with that.
way.
Maybe like tribal drummer.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Could be really cool.
Yeah, I think you could take that. That's an interesting take on a bard, especially with the ancestors. Oh man.
Yeah.
What? See, now I need Caratur.
Yeah.
Caratur.
Yes.
Oh,
that'd be perfect for it.
Yeah. The wild men, man. That would be a perfect. Oh man.
You get a lot at 3rd level here, by the way. I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, sorry. I was going off on a little bit of tangent thinking about how great that is. That like a 2nd edition Curator.
Yeah.
That is a perfect like bard.
Yeah.
For the wild man, staying outside.
Great.
I think so. But you going with 3rd level? Did you say?
Yeah. You also get Spiritual Focus at 3rd level. This focus can take the form of a deck of Taraka cards or a skull. Focus just adds flavor to the subclass until 6th level, When at 6th level, when you cast a bard spell that deals damage or restores hit points through your spiritual focus, you can roll a d6 and add it to one of the roll of the spell. The current wording of the ability is problematic, however, which is detailed in the cons section below. So I did check out the cons section a little bit.
Okay.
And the issue right now is that the wording makes it seem like you can only add it to one roll until the next long rest, which, if so, makes it not a great.
That's a 3rd level ability, not a 6th level ability.
Right.
Yeah.
If you got that ability at 3rd,
Awesome.
and at 6th it upgraded,
yeah,
that'd be great. But at 6th level, you can use it once a long rest for 1 extra d6. Maybe give it more d6s or reduce the penalty to at 6th level. Now you can do it every short rest. And then by 10th level, now you can do it all the time.
I think I would rather if they're going to do that, just do it like you do the for the life cleric, the healing when they get back. They get back that healing.
Yes, I agree.
So if
just have that as a thing.
Just have that as a thing. If they add that 6 to they can add that 6 to damage,
or to a heal, but you have to use it through your focus.
Right.
So if your focus gets knocked out of your hand in the fight by disarming strike,
right.
Well, hey, you don't get that extra. You also get Tales from Beyond, which is also a 3rd level feature, which is where my issue with the subclass comes in. You get all your good stuff at 3rd level, which is a bonus. I mean, you get it early.
Well, we've actually discussed this before.
We have
a problem with 5e, and you really have to work. Well, I know the adventure that nobody will hear. Going back to the campaign that we're playing on Sundays. Y'all are 12th level now.
Yeah.
We're printing up new character sheets this Sunday. 12th level. Starting to get, I got to work on the DM side.
Right.
Imaginatively to kind of put stuff together to give y'all a challenge.
Right.
Because if I go straight from book.
Stout.
You're pretty stout. If I go straight from book right now, you either walk through it or I wipe.
Yeah.
Or I wipe the party.
Right.
And that's pretty much the 2 options I've got.
Yeah.
With even with all the resources I've got on D&D Beyond, it's just up through there. And like this campaign can go to 28th level. I'm not guaranteeing it will.
Yeah.
But yeah, here as soon as y'all hit 3 more levels.
Yeah.
Over the next few months, 3 more levels, y'all will be 15th level.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man, it's
gonna be real tough to balance them then.
There's lots of dice rolling.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Especially
once I have all those smites.
Right.
I do think this is a cool feature, though.
Okay, go for it.
I feel like maybe this should have been the 6th level ability.
Okay.
But maybe you want it earlier because how cool it is. It's a table. So Tales from Beyond is a rolling table.
Okay.
And as a bonus action, you can spend a Bardic Inspiration die to roll on the Spirit's Tales table below. Each tale has a different effect, ranging from teleporting targets to dealing psychic damage to enemies. Tales are also prefaced with flavorful hooks that you can use to tie them into your character. Okay. Teleportation ability, for instance, could manifest when the bard tells the story of an adventurer who escaped confinement or something like that. Right. If you roll on the table, 1 is a beast. You recite the tale of a clever animal. For 1 minute, the target has advantage on wisdom checks and advantage on attack rolls against a creature if another enemy is within 5 feet of it. If you roll a 2, it's a warrior. You recount the story of a duelist. You're shaking your head.
Yeah, this is not a 3rd level ability.
I agree. This is, like I said, I understand why you want it early, but this is like 6th level.
At least.
Yeah. Make a melee spell attack. This one lets you just make another melee spell attack.
Okay, I mean, you just brought another warrior in the party, right?
No, you're not summoning them. You're telling the story of them.
Yeah, but the effect is?
The effect is you recount the story of a renowned duelist, make a melee spell attack against the target as the attacking spectral warrior briefly appears in an occupied space within 5 feet, in an unoccupied space, before vanishing. On a hit, the target takes force damage equal to 2 rolls of your Bardic Inspiration die and your Charisma modifier. So you're summoning a spectral warrior for 1 attack, and then it's gone.
Somebody is going to multi-class this with a warlock.
Yes.
And drive a DM nuts.
I agree. It's very cool.
It is, and I agree. And see, that's where I'm at kind of with D&D 5e right now.
Yeah,
because there's all this kind of cool stuff. I've got so much. I don't have all the source books unlocked. I've got a few of them, and parts of others on D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
And honestly, if I don't put restrictions on it for session 0, session 0 becomes what do they call it? Choice paralysis.
Yeah.
Almost, you know.
It does, for sure. Most of these are beneficial.
Right.
The majority of them. I think the only one that really isn't. Let me get back down here to it, because Dark Spirit is kind of negative to you. You speak when you roll an 8. You speak a dreadful tale of a slayer in the dark. The target becomes invisible until the end of its next turn, or until it hits a creature with an attack. So the thing that you were trying to hurt now becomes invisible. And whatever it attacks while it's invisible takes necrotic damage equal to your roll of your bardic inspiration die and becomes frightened. So that's a pretty negative. Pretty big negative.
You know, if that is, but it's not enough of a negative to give it at 3rd level, I don't think.
Right.
If it was like half and half at 3rd level, 75% at 6.
Right.
And then it should never be 100% until way late. But
you can get Dragon on a 10, which you magically spew fire from your mouth in a 30-foot cone. Each creature in that area must make a dexterity saving throw. So that's your allies as well.
Yeah.
Taking fire damage equal to 3 rolls of your bardic inspiration die. Again, the 12th one is a pretty big negative. You utter an incomprehensible, that's the word, fable from a being beyond the stars. Choose a creature you can see within 30 feet of you. The target must succeed on intelligence saving throw or take psychic damage equal to 3 rolls of your bardic inspiration die. And the target is unable to speak any language for a minute.
You get to choose your target.
You get to choose, but if there's nobody within 30 feet of you, you still have to do it to somebody.
Right.
So it would have to be you then.
Yeah. But even still.
Right. As long as you're within 30 feet of an enemy.
You've got you. That's I'm going to use my movement first.
Right.
And go. And man, at 11th level, that's 3d10s.
Yes.
Worth of psychic damage. I don't know, man. But 11th level, there may not be so much, but man.
You're really not going to like this next one. 6th level. You got 3 things at 3rd level. 6th level. Spirit Session. Once per long rest, you can conduct an hour-long ritual with a number of creatures equal to your proficiency bonus, including yourself. Afterwards, you temporarily learn a divination or necromancy spell from any class, and the spell counts as a bard spell. The spell level must be equal to the number of creatures who participated in the ritual, and be a spell level that you can cast. So at 6th level, you can get a 3rd level spell.
From
any class. And it counts as a bard spell until you take your next long rest, when you can do it again.
And what was the deal with the people?
They are spirits. They're creatures equal to your, or from beyond the veil, basically.
Was equal to what?
Equal to your proficiency bonus, including yourself. So it's your proficiency bonus. I would probably, if I was the DM, I would probably say you are one of the 2 in your proficiency bonus.
Yeah.
So by 6th level, you have a 3, right? So you're one of the 3. You don't get to have a 4.
Yeah.
But
wow.
I should say too, I forgot to mention this. The table for Tales from the Beyond, it's all 30 feet. You don't have anything longer range than that.
Okay.
So it is a form of balance. 30 feet is not as long as a lot of encounters will be, but I'm going to guarantee you right now, if I'm running with somebody who's this, I'm going to have more ranged enemies than I don't. So that I don't have to worry about this table. I will have stuff there for them to use it on.
Yeah.
But I will have stuff that doesn't stand within 30 feet of them as well. Because I got to balance that out.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think that one needs some work. I think the idea is there. I think they're trying to make the first few. I realize that D&D 5e is strongest in the first 10 levels, let's say. Well, be nice, say 10 levels. But that doesn't mean you shove everything in the first 10 levels.
Yeah.
And the more I think about it, it's a lot more and more that's what they do.
Yeah.
That could be spread out.
For sure. There is a 14th level ability here.
It was
but it's just 1.
I know. And okay, see, we go from 6 to 14, and that's just.
Well, we go from 333, 6, 14.
Yeah.
And this one is just that at 14th level, and I actually think this one's underpowered, probably to make balance. At 14th level, you can use a D6 instead of your D4 for your bardic inspiration die when rolling on the table.
Okay.
So you don't have to use more than, if you want to get at least a 6 on there, you don't have to use more than one bardic inspiration die to do it. But
okay. Yeah.
and that is the thing, when you're rolling on that table, you are still having to use your die, right?
Right.
But again, it only takes 3 die to possibly get a 12, and when everything in the first 4 is beneficial, there's no reason not to.
Right, but then again, if you're sitting down with some players, and let's say it's not necessarily newbies, but they're kind of getting into it still, and you're like, we want to have an action base campaign, so we're gonna go with heroic rests, and then you get handed that bard, it's
I'm rolling on that table every turn,
right.
I got no reason not to.
It would be something that you'd have to take in consideration. That if someone's playing that character, you need an 8-hour long rest. Yeah, it's just I kind of feel that way with the warlock class in general.
Yeah. Well, since you brought up warlocks,
yes,
let's talk about the undead warlock.
Absolutely.
The undead patron is an ancient being that death has no power over, such as Azalin, Lord Soth, and even Strahd von Zarovich himself.
Of course.
A warlock with this patron can take on a terrifying form, destroy and recreate their body, and even protect their spirit.
Hopefully not at 3rd level.
Well, you get your first thing at 1st level.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Which is expanded spell list, of course, warlocks.
Yeah.
The warlock can begin choosing from an expanded spell list of spells themed around undeath. False Life, Phantom Steed, and Death Ward are strong contenders. Obviously, level 1, you can't use Phantom Steed.
I was going to say, because Phantom Steed is good.
Yeah. You wouldn't be able to use that till later, but it's part of your spell list. Because
so it doesn't count against you.
Providing a cushion of hit points, increased mobility, failsafe. Anti-Life Shell is also one you can take, which is a great spell.
Yeah.
But at 1st level, all you'll have access to is Bane and False Life. Form of Dread is a 1st level feature. Form of Dread allows you to take on a fearsome appearance for 1 minute as a bonus action. This transformation grants temporary hit points, immunity to the frightened condition, and the ability to frighten a foe when you hit it with an attack, assuming they fail a wisdom saving throw.
Every attack or just the first one?
It doesn't say. I would probably rule it as the first one, because after that, they're used to you.
Right. Because that's the way fear works in most cases.
Right. You can transform a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. So right away from level 1, you'll be able to transform twice.
Okay.
Per long rest. You have a lot of flexibility in your appearance upon using Form of Dread, though it should be reminiscent of your patron. So you could maybe look more like Strahd.
That would actually be kind of a fun class for like a cosmic horror, like Cthulhu kind of take on, or a
when they bring up imagine changing from a human to something like Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
At 6th level, this one's a little bit more balanced. You don't get anything new at 3rd level that you don't already get as a warlock.
Right.
At 6th level, you get Grave Touched. 6th level features a few perks. You no longer need to eat, drink, or breathe.
That's good.
That is a great thing for a warlock that is dead.
Yeah, I'll walk across the bottom of this river and meet you on the other side.
Yeah. Can you imagine the RP you can do with that? Further, when you hit with an attack roll and roll damage, you can change the damage type to necrotic. Yeah.
Okay.
If you're in the Form of Dread,
wait. You didn't mention as a bonus action or anything else.
Nope, you can just do that.
You can just change your damage.
6th level.
All right, then.
You can choose for your damage to be necrotic.
That's pretty sick.
If you're in the Form of Dread, you also get an additional damage die when determining the damage your target takes. So if you use necrotic damage, you get an additional damage die, which means obviously you're using necrotic damage if you're in your Form of Dread.
Yeah, so I don't get anything at 3rd level.
Yeah. At level 10, you get Mortal Husk. Mortal Husk gives you resistance to necrotic damage, which is kind of crazy you don't get that sooner, but
yeah.
If you're in Form of Dread, this is kicked up to immunity to necrotic damage, which makes sense. You're in your dead form.
Yeah.
But here's the fun part, and they worded that themselves. When you're reduced to 0 hit points, you can cause your body to explode.
Nice.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, I love that too.
Yes. If you do, each creature within 30 feet of you takes necrotic damage equal to 2d10 plus your level, which I think is a really cool way to do that because it's at 10th level anyway.
Yeah.
So that's at least 10. It's at least 12 damage, right? But it's probably going to be more than that. You can then horrify everyone in your adventuring party as you emerge from your remains with 1 hit point, 1 level of exhaustion, and all your gear. I think that's a really cool way to balance that. 1 level of exhaustion as well.
Yeah.
Once you revive yourself in this way, you can't do so again until you finish 1d4 long rests. There you go. That's balance to me. You don't get that back for maybe 4 days, depending on what kind of campaign you're playing.
Yeah.
You roll your d4, that's the next time you can explode.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that's maybe harsh compared to like an orc that can just always get back up.
Yeah.
You know? But, I mean, you're able to do a lot of damage, and it's super cool.
It is.
So I understand why it has a limit. Yeah, it's great. Like, imagine you're basically Deadpool at that point.
Well, see,
you pull the grenades.
Here's where I went with it because I'm really pulling. I really want Dragonlance as a campaign setting in 5e to come out. And yeah, so that I went to that setting in my mind first.
Yeah.
It'd be so good, and yeah, taking on the form of Chimash.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Can I play on a warlock in our next campaign? At 14th level is our last ability.
Okay.
Spirit projection. You can project your spirit for an hour as an action, leaving behind your bothersome husk of a body. When you do, you gain a flying speed and can pass through objects.
That's cool.
You also gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, but you can still take damage.
Okay.
And you can cast spells of the Conjuration and Necromancy schools without requiring verbal, somatic, or material components that lack a gold cost. If it costs gold, you still can't cast it. As a nice bonus, once per turn, you can regain hit points equal to half the necrotic damage you deal while in the form of dread. The downside to this features are that it requires concentration and can only be used once per long rest. So realistically, you're not going to want to fight as this most of the time.
I don't think so. And, okay. I like the ethereal thing.
Yes, I think it's very cool. You are a spirit inhabiting a body, and you trade bodies. You blow your body up.
Well, and not even that. I mean, just being able to do that.
Yeah.
The ability to kind of go. But it's the Kitty Pryde thing, right?
Yeah.
You can go intangible, and you can't while you're in that. I believe the way I prefer it is you have very limited things you can do while in that state because I think you should be invulnerable.
Yeah.
Except maybe to a magical blast, especially if it's psychic damage.
Yeah.
And look, this is all me, right? Looking at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you can do anything in an ethereal state, even just an attack action, is huge.
Oh yeah.
You know.
I think it's really interesting too that they say once per turn you can regain hit points equal to half the necrotic damage you deal. When you're in your form of dread, which makes it seem like while you're a spirit, you could take your form of dread.
That would be terrifying.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But again, you can only cast spells out of Conjuration and Necromancy, and you have to have concentration, which means if you take any damage at all, you could lose it and then get sucked back to your body, you know? So I think that's pretty balanced. I think of these two, ironically, I think that both the Warlock is cooler and more balanced.
I do. I like the feel. I know it's a bard.
Yeah.
There's things in the bard that I like and I think work well, and I think there's really good settings.
Yeah.
Where that could be a really cool thing. Unfortunately, I think they front loaded it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think right now that's my problem.
Yeah.
With that bard, spread that out.
Yeah.
One of those can go to 10th level.
Yeah. Give me the table at like 6th or 7th level.
Yeah.
And then by that point, you've made it that far. That table is cool.
Yeah. You know, and I'm uncomfortable with the jump from 6th to 14th. I don't like that.
I also think maybe reduce the table from 12 options to 10 options and roll a D10 for it, you know? Or maybe even drop it down to a D6 and then you still get the ability that lets you roll a D6 later.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to use 2 and have 2 options that are worthless if you use 2 D4s.
Does it really seems like there's not many DMs working on 5e. There's lots of players.
I feel like, man, I want to be the DM that works on monsters, so I guess I get it, because I feel like that's probably what's happening. The DMs working on 5e are making stuff like the Carrionet.
Yeah.
And the players are making these really cool sounding classes. But, man, I'll put it this way. If I have one of these bards one of these College of Spirits bards in my game, I have to build the game around countering that bard.
Not necessarily counter about,
Right.
but you've really got to take that guard into account for
Yeah.
your story, right?
Whereas I don't with the Undead Warlock.
True, and I find that, and that's I find that with bards.
Yeah.
I don't care what college you take, because and I really it's on the side of the player as well, because if I have a bard in the party, man, for him to shine or her to shine, there's got to be certain situations.
Yeah.
Now I will say, if they balance out that, like the spirit one, if it's balanced out a little bit more, maybe
It's a
they
cool
stretch it
bard
out.
idea.
I think it's a cool bard idea, and it actually feels like it would fit into a little. You wouldn't have to. I'm trying to think of how to put it. It doesn't need that. That one doesn't sound like it needs the cityscape.
Right. Yeah.
To
Absolutely.
work.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense? Okay.
And I feel like I should mention too, when I say that you got to plan around that bard, you got to plan around a fighter too, right? If your party's got a
Absolutely.
fighter, your party's got a rogue, but not to the extent that I do. Like, for instance, it's kind of funny because I've been talking about playing a wild magic sorcerer. If you have a wild magic sorcerer in the game, you have to plan around that, right?
Right.
You have to plan your situation
As much as you can.
Right. Knowing that there is a chance when you get into this boss fight
Right.
that you have built that they're going to get a good roll, and that boss is going to get polymorphed into a duck.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that boss can do about it,
Yeah.
right? You have to know going in that. And I think that's something you also have to take into mind with the Wild Magic Barbarian and with
anything
this
got a random
College of
table on.
Spirits.
Yeah, anything got a random table
is,
on.
hey, look, this could fall apart real quick.
Yeah. But I want to give an example, because I've got a bard in the Monday night group.
Yeah.
That College of Lore.
Right.
Basic rules, right? Just kind of getting back into it. I have to. Okay, if they stop on a town,
Yeah.
it's unfair to that player if I don't give them the stage for a little bit.
Yeah.
Or give them a place to do the bard thing.
Right.
And the fighter doesn't fit with the bard thing. A rogue can.
Yeah.
I'm picking pockets while he's got him distracted and
For
things
sure.
like that. But for the most part, you have to give the bard that stage.
Right.
That's why I say I'd rather everybody be a bard, and then you all played at your band or whatever.
Man, an all bard party would be sick.
And it would. And as much as I gripe about all the players and stuff, that's one of the good things. You can do that in 5e and not have two of the same players.
I could be the goth bard who's the College of Spirits.
Right.
I can't play right now. I gotta talk to my ancestors. See,
Yeah,
what's
maybe
going on.
that might be the character for the edgelord to play.
Alternatively, another really cool way you could take. I know we have other stuff we need to talk about.
Yeah.
But another really cool way you could take that bard, the College of Spirits bard, is what if they are somebody who's from a culture that is extremely like lineage based. That is, hey, my ancestor is the most important thing. I'm going to be in commune with them constantly.
Yeah.
I don't need to talk to all of you.
Right.
Because the important people to me are those that have come before, those that
Yeah.
laid the path for me,
Yeah.
That could be a really cool way to play that bard.
I think so. That gives me an idea. So we'll come back. We'll kind of come back to that. I want to get back onto Taso.
Yeah.
Now, we've kind of set up this world,
Mhm.
and we really didn't talk too much about the world off the podcast, but we talked about how far we're going to go with it.
Right.
And we're not wanting to build such a detailed world that somebody would have to go, oh my gosh.
We do,
Yeah.
but if we do that, not only will it be incredibly intimidating for new DMs.
Yeah, it would kind of defeat the purpose.
Right.
Of what we're trying to do with it.
As much as you and I could both sit here for another 12 episodes of this and hammer down, we could start making legends and heroes but we wanted this world to kind of be something that people could make their own.
Yes.
Right?
Bare bones.
Right.
Which, if you've listened to the podcast before, is perfect for us. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's kind of bare bones. Some names and ideas just to kind of get stuff going
Yes.
without having to learn all the gods and forgotten realms.
Right.
Read the book of, Ravenica
Yeah.
or things like that.
And if I have my way with this world, it won't be simple. It will be just as complicated as,
Yeah.
So, like, if we dig down into it, I'm starting on cultures. I'm working
Oh,
on
absolutely.
I'm working on the Elvish king and what's
Yes.
it's like, no, that's something you as the DM
Yeah.
need to be able to take this world and go, all right, I have
Yeah.
this place they have given me. I have
Right.
this information. What culture do I want here?
Right. I'm hoping it's enough that and if we get a request, it's like, hey, will you go into a
Yeah.
little bit more detail on how you would do this, maybe languages or culture?
Yes.
Then yes, we will. But I think there's enough there that hopefully you can,
Yeah.
as a DM, you start filling in the whys,
Yeah, I agree.
and the hows will come to you, and it should flesh out.
Yeah. Well, and as we've already shown, the if this, then what question, right? That equation of if this happened, then what happens here is it almost always, if you follow that equation, you will have a full world before long.
Right. And yeah, so we're not going to go down that path. We're going
Right.
to try to give a few the new DM a few more things to kind of help out.
Mhm.
So we've got this bare bones world
Yeah.
laid out. We've kind of got some different ideas for how to set up the cultures.
Yeah.
Laid out, what you're looking at two different.
Yeah. Stereotype, inverse stereotype, or
Yeah,
something
right.
off the wall.
Absolutely. Going through that. So what I'd like to do is give them like a little bit of, some challenges.
Yeah.
How would they set up? Okay, I've got my 4 players. We've got our characters made. We're going to use this world. What are they fighting, or how do I come up with something to make for them to fight?
Right. And we need to make sure, for me, I as the not to say as the experienced DM, but as somebody who's been running Dungeons and Dragons for many, many years,
Yeah.
my first thought is, all right, let's bring in those extra planar entities. And,
Yeah.
well, no, we need to make sure we also have a simplified version. Not simple as in, hey, well, you're just not ready for the big guns, kid.
Well, it's not like that. I mean,
But-
if you've listened in before, you and know we're going off the basic
Yeah.
rules.
that
That's
stuff
capped.
isn't there.
Yeah, it's not there. It's capped at 6th level,
Yeah.
right? And there, if you spend the money, yes,
Yeah.
you'll have all kinds of stuff you can do there, but you don't have to.
That's right.
And so far, you've been able to play. I can guarantee you can have a good session up to 6th level. What
Yeah.
we got,
Absolutely.
and we'll give you a couple of ideas here to get thinking about how to do
Yeah.
the monster.
I think the first big enemies you need to have as a DM if you're going to run this world are the races that are already there.
Yes.
You need to make sure that you utilize. It doesn't always have to be monsters, right? Maybe the
Right.
true monsters were the people we thought we could trust.
Right.
The humans, the wizards, the dwarves, the elves, the halflings. Stat blocks for all those are in the DMG.
Right. And I was going to say, and on one hand, for DM, if you know how to make a character,
Mm-hmm.
and whip up, you can, especially if you've got the D&D Beyond,
Yep.
and you just need to whip up a few. That is one way to do it.
Yes.
Now,
You also use the encounter builder on D&D Beyond.
yeah, but as far as for making that a whole character sheet for
Right.
NPC, I don't suggest that.
No, neither do I.
There's nothing wrong with it, and it may be the system you use.
Yeah.
You may use it for your big bad or something
Yeah.
like that. That may be the way you use.
Big important NPCs that the
Yes.
party decides to drag along anyway,
Yeah.
and they're able to convince them to go with them. Yeah, I might make a character sheet for
that.
them.
Yeah, but want to kind of avoid that because as a DM,
Yeah.
you're keeping up with your players, you're keeping up with the world.
Yeah.
The last thing you need, they have a character sheet.
Right.
Is they're keeping up with their character. They should be.
Mm-hmm.
Learning and trying to develop and get bigger character. They've got a lot of stats and stuff they've got to keep up with.
That's right.
And it would be silly to think that okay, well, if you're on the DM side, you need to keep up with all those stats
Right.
as well, not only for them but everything else.
Yeah.
So it's not. We're kind of offering a couple of shortcuts.
Yeah.
Is where we're looking at it. Now, mine I think works better for throwing them against like humanoids.
Yes.
Like, the one
Absolutely.
the one I'm thinking of, and I'll talk about that. But I think you want to really talk about making like a monster.
Yeah. So, if you want to run this world or any world that you
Yeah,
make for
yeah.
yourself, even one thing that can be really restrictive is a stat block. When you look at CR in the book and you look at a stat block, especially as a new
Yeah.
DM, none of that means anything to you.
Yeah.
you really have to get some encounters under your belt before you really start to grasp what any of that means.
Yes.
Like, what's the difference between a 14 and a 16 on the monster's strength? You know, well, when you see that difference at the table,
Yeah.
because that monster hit harder than you thought it should,
Right.
you know, and so what I like to do is I like to homebrew my monsters.
Right.
I will make monsters for almost anything, but I don't make them all fresh. Like, I don't just sit down and go, all right, I have to come up with a brand new creature design that's never been in anything before.
Well, that's the stealing and using the tropes and the cliches, right?
Absolutely.
And you're still going to go along those lines.
Yes.
So you have all kinds of backstory material already presented for you. You just pick and choose as you need.
Right.
You're just trying to this is you getting it into where you're rolling against.
Exactly.
Right.
And so what I will normally do is I will take a stat block for an orc.
Yeah.
And I will go, okay, how strong do I want this orc to be? What level are my players? How many of these are they fighting? And then I'll go, well, I don't want it to just be an orc. I want it to be something special. Okay, well, now it's a red orc.
Right.
Or now it's a horned goat man, not a satyr or a goatling, but like a full-on goat man demon.
Yeah.
It still has that orc stat block because I want it to be about as strong as an orc.
But or some kind of I went to maybe it's because of something else that we'll be talking about later. But I went to like a gorilla. That would be good for like an anthropomorphic gorilla.
Well, and to mention a gorilla, when I made my Endymions, the monster race that I'm so proud of, I took a gorilla stat block because that's the way they move. They move like a gorilla.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to take a gorilla stat block.
Yeah.
And from there, I'll look at what that stat's abilities are. It doesn't make sense for my Goatman demon to have relentless endurance, right?
Right.
Because he's not an orc. So instead, I'm going to give him the ability to jump higher because he's a Goatman. I'm going to give him the ability to ram with his horns because he's a Goatman. Well, how much damage does that need to do? Okay, let me find another monster. Let me Google it because we're using free rules.
Right.
And find another monster that rams things. Yeah. Well, turns out there's a ram in the DMG.
Yeah.
He doesn't do a lot of damage because it's just an animal.
Right.
But I can take that ram and go, all right, well, what if instead of a D4, it did a D8 of damage?
Oh, also, if you're using, depending on the stat block you're using, you could stick with a D4 because if they get a bonus of strength.
Right. Then it could still do quite a bit of damage.
It's still going to do more damage than the regular goat.
And then I have a goat man that is custom made for my party to fight.
Absolutely.
That I didn't have to put a lot of work into, really. I took most of the work from stuff that I already had.
Right.
And I think for me, when I'm homebrewing monsters, that's the biggest thing. I don't want to have to make stat blocks from scratch every time.
Right.
So I can take stat blocks and just move them over and use them, and I'm good to go. I ran a pseudo dragon in a campaign not that long ago. I ran a tile dragon. There is not a stat block for a tile dragon. It's a homebrew creature. But the homebrew that I found of it on D&D Beyond was way stronger than I wanted it to be.
Right.
So I took a young pseudo dragon and I made that, just moved the stats over.
Right.
The breath weapon is now the tile breath.
Yeah.
The claws are now the tile claws. And so
change the damage if you need damage type.
Right.
If you need to.
Otherwise, that's good to go. A young pseudo dragon was a perfect match for my current party. So there we go. So the question then goes, well, how do I know what's a good match? Well, for a new DM, that's really tough.
It is.
I would start small.
Yeah.
Always err on the side of caution.
Right.
Go, hey, it's going to be 4 goblins instead of 6 goblins.
Well,
but even 4 goblins might be too many. Depending.
And there is a way I want to throw this in there.
Right.
Let's say let's go with 2 players.
Yeah.
DM, okay. Starting out, throw one goblin at
100%.
it. Let him run through it.
Yeah. Turns out that was a goblin scout.
Right. Here a little bit. Maybe they fight 2.
Yeah.
And, you'll find that point where if you maybe when you get up to 3, you find that you've got a good fight. So you kind of got a good baseline for maybe 2 first level characters.
Yes.
And you'll find, obviously, it's going to depend on what classes those are. Some work better than others for situations, but you can kind of build up to it.
Yes.
Your first battle doesn't necessarily have to be a challenge.
Right.
You know, it can be a pretty straightforward kind of get used to rolling, and that's perfectly fine.
Very often with a new party too, one thing I will do is that in their first battle, there will be an NPC there as well.
That helps a lot, yeah.
And that NPC is there for two reasons. Well, three. That NPC is there to take damage, so the party doesn't take as much damage.
Yeah.
To do damage if the party can't do enough damage, and to show the party what they should be doing, especially for new players. If the fighter is going, well, like, do I just run up and attack it? And then, well, that NPC just ran up and attacked it, so I'm going to run up and attack it too.
Yeah.
You know? Or if the NPC, if most of my party uses ranged weapons, maybe the NPC has a bow, but is going to use the sword for most of the fight. I'll have it start with a shot.
Yeah.
And then stow the bow.
Yeah.
And draw their sword. They don't get to do anything else that turn, right? That's the whole turn.
Right.
But then the party goes, oh, that's right, I can do that.
Yes.
And so by having that NPC, you reduce a lot of your worry for your first combat, because even experienced players playing a class or a combination for the first time are going to struggle a little bit, right?
Yeah.
There's that learning period.
Right.
And like you said, if you start off small or you give them somebody to help them just to get through the first fight.
Yeah.
And then after that, you go, all right, I know a little bit more of what they can handle.
Also,
let me throw more at them.
And this is this is a DM secret. This is where I wouldn't necessarily have stats. I would take, okay, if they can get in this many hits.
Yeah.
I want to count it as a victory.
For sure.
And I have started quests with new players, and I probably will if we do other systems.
Yeah.
One of them, especially people, do a training session.
Yeah.
You know, y'all meet up, and this is something they do. They work out their skills.
When 5e first came out, that was the thing a lot of people were doing. Hey, we're going to run a session that is just combat, and each of you are going to get another class each fight, and we're going to just train. We're going to try out 5e. We're going to try out combat.
Yeah.
We're going to learn.
That's feasible. This might not be something you want to do right off the bat, but that's definitely something. Man, you run up to, let's say you take this world, you make it your own. You don't use the brother things. You just make a world and put two continents.
Sure. Why not?
You keep everything else. You put just two continents on a world instead of the build up we had, right? You go with that. You keep it simple. You push through, like do your training combat. For your first time through. Let everybody get used to the character they think in their head they want to play.
Yeah.
Like somebody's probably got in their head, let's just say, I don't know, somebody's got like a King Arthur, like a fighter does,
Yeah.
And you let them play through that. But the idea of, maybe your second or third session after you finish that campaign where you want to I like that idea of, hey, let's run through.
Yeah.
Everybody make a second, third level character.
Yeah.
And kind of see what they do, see how you play with those and how you feel about them.
I do think too, there's this idea of, well, I can only throw, since we're talking about combat and monsters and challenge rating and everything.
Yeah.
There's this idea of I can only throw at level stuff at people. And because the stat blocks are yours to play with.
Yeah.
You could throw, I wouldn't throw a dragon at a level 2 party.
Right.
But you could reduce the stat blocks.
Yeah.
And do that. Where that gets really interesting is, and I don't ever mean to drag us into just us telling stories about our campaigns, but part of being a DM is experience.
Yeah.
And at 6th level, 3 of my players fought a greater planar demon because they had summoned it, and I wasn't ready for them to summon it, and neither was the cultist. They finished the ritual early before he was able to get all of his power. So I had prepared for 4 or 5 levels down the road.
Yeah.
A big fight against this planar demon. And the demon wasn't at that strength yet.
Right.
So I cut all his stats in half.
Right.
And they fought at a much lower level than they should be. A weakened planar demon. And they still talk about that.
Yeah.
Because, hey, we found the cult. We interrupted the summoning. We got to kill this demon.
Yeah. And that was we talk about a lot of homebrew because one in both of us when we DM we just use a lot of homebrew.
Yeah, we make
It-
our own worlds almost always.
Right. It feels like home.
Yeah,
Just like I'm sure there's people out there, Forgotten Realms feels like home. They
yeah,
know
for sure.
they know Neverwinter.
Right.
They know going through. I don't know. So
Every bit of water deep.
every you kind of for going on the monster side, just really kind of sum up that view. You've got like you gave the example
Yeah.
of using the orc stat block, and we talked about a couple of different creatures that you could do with it.
Yeah.
But it's you've got that stat block there for your creature.
Yeah.
With that, and it doesn't have to be that creature.
That's right.
You can reskin it a lot of different ways.
That's right.
Um,
I want my players to fight King Kong.
yeah,
Here's a gorilla stat block, and I've beefed it up.
yeah,
And here's King Kong.
right,
Good luck.
right. Mighty Joe Young at the very least.
Yeah.
So so the one I'm talking about is a little bit different,
Okay.
and like I said, I think it worked really well if you need like a group of bandits.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use four players
Okay.
as it because I think there's something about 4 players at a D&D table.
Yeah.
That's just a kind of rounded group to me, and
Yes.
it doesn't matter, but it's in my head.
It's tradition.
Right, I guess so. So one thing I do at the beginning of most sessions when we're going to sit down and play, even if I've got it the week before or whatever, no levels change or whatever, I try to get everybody's, at least make sure I have everybody's armor class.
Yeah.
And a little note if there's something that changes that they
Right.
could do, and then their hit points.
Yes.
And then depending on, I'll get some other information that I may need, like passive perception or something like that, something
Right.
that may come up. Especially, usually I get passive perception if a player has it really high.
Yeah. Well, like for instance, if you were running a carrionet, like we talked about earlier,
yeah,
and somebody had a passive perception higher than that hide check,
right.
You need to know that if you're running that creature.
Exactly. So, but at least the 2, and I'm going to start with those top 2. So, if I have that information, I can say, okay, I need an encounter.
Yeah.
And I will take the AC across the party, add all of that, divide by 4, get the average of it.
Right.
There'll be my AC, and I'll do the same thing with the hit points.
Yeah.
And then I'll pick out, there's going to be 4 creatures.
Right.
There's going to be each one. And I have a kind of a balance there.
Yeah.
Because you're taking in, because your AC and your hit points, they're affected in a way. How effective those are is based on your stats, right? Your
Yes.
highest stat and your lowest stat.
Right.
Are going to affect those. But yeah, so you kind of take all that in, and I think you kind of cover all that.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that. So I've got my 4 creatures there. Now, I've got I've got to look at my group.
Right. What do I have?
Right. If I have a bunch of casters there,
Right.
I'll check my action economy.
Right.
Because first everybody's going to have 1 attack, right? They're all going to have 1 attack.
Yeah.
You put a weapon in their hand. So say longsword.
Yeah.
1d8, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. 1d8. So you got that longsword. You're going to have that.
Unless they magic weapon it. And then...
Right. Now, if they're under 5th level, none of those creatures need more than 1 attack.
Right.
If they're over 5th level, you probably need at least 2 of them with multi-attack.
Right.
If not all 4, depending on the group you're fighting. Especially if you got a fighter, let's say a fighter and a barbarian.
Oh yeah.
In the other group, in the group, then I would probably put 2 attacks all the way across on all 4.
Right.
Now, I would do the damage a little differently. Like I said, I'm trying to keep this simple. And if you look down the weapons chart, you got 1d8, 1d6, 1d4, 1d12, 2d6.
Yeah.
Going all over the place. So I have the little chart inside the DM screen, and I'm going to read it off.
Yeah.
It's short.
And very good.
So if you get a DM screen and you look through on the little 3rd flap, you'll have this just a little chart. It's 4 lines. It says damage by level and severity. And it's got the levels broke up as 1 to 4, 5 to 10, 11 to 14, 17 to 20. It's got 3 categories on there.
Right.
Setback, dangerous, and deadly. So we'll go 1 to 4, right?
Yeah.
So I've got 4 guys. I've already got their AC. I've got their hit points. I've got a weapon in their hand. How I've got the attacks line because they're under 4, so they've all got 1 attack apiece.
Yes.
So how rough do I want this to be? Do I want to be a setback? If I want to be a setback, then all damage on this chart is done by 10s.
Right.
So if it's not too tough a fight, but can cause problems, a 1d10. And that's at 1 through 4, especially at 1. That's a deadly fight.
Oh, yeah.
That's a rough fight. I would probably never
especially when those 4 wizards probably only have
exactly
14, 16 HP. Piece.
Like I said, that, and I may not put any proficiency bonuses on it from fighting 4 wizards.
Yeah.
Okay. I probably wouldn't use the dangerous level, but unless it was a meat grinder or something. It's like, look, this is dangerous, which is 2d10. And then remember, this is 1st to 4th.
Man, imagine taking a party of wizards into a meat grinder campaign.
Oh.
You can do it, but
oh yeah, absolutely, and it would be tough.
Yeah.
Once you got a few levels in.
Yeah, then it'd be really good.
Yeah, and then like I said, deadly on 1 to 4, which I would not use probably for an encounter.
Yeah.
Unless, like I said, it's their 4th level. They're fighting a big bad, so to speak, for the 4th level. Then I may do an attack of 4d10.
Yeah.
And that's vicious. But it goes up, and I'm not going to go over the whole chart because you can find it online.
Right.
And I think Don John has a chart close to this.
Yeah.
But that's how I would pick the level up. Because like I said, if they're all level 11 per se, then I'm going to have two attacks across the board.
Right.
Right? And then I've got my choice. I can do 4d10 damage.
Yeah.
Which is 10d10. If I really want to make it rough, they're going to have an attack, which probably wouldn't be 2 attacks.
Right.
But 18d10.
Yeah.
That's up to 180 damage.
Right. Or as little as 18.
Now, there's one more, right?
I've seen it.
Well, there's one more step I take with this, because what's going to set your monsters? Another thing that's going to sit beside just damage. That's you can play either just use the weapon damage or go by the chart,
right?
And kind of round it up, or as you need to.
Yeah.
But it's your ability scores and the bonuses you get from that. So I do that by level 2. Like I said, this is for making it quick.
Right.
So if I've got 1 through 4, let's say I've got 4 fighters that I'm controlling, right?
Yeah.
I've used this. I've got 4. I'm gonna make 4 fighters, 1 attack apiece. They're all using 1d10. Or 1d10 damage.
Yeah.
Okay. But if somebody casts a spell and I need them to save, I need to have I need to know those numbers. So instead of trying to make a full stat block, I just go, well, these are fighters who are going to be physical.
Yeah.
So their strength, dexterity, and constitution, I want to give them a bonus in that. They're not going to get a bonus in the mental stats. And if I want them to be tough, I'm going to give them a +3.
Yeah.
If they're not that tough, I'm going to give them +1.
Right.
They're going to get something, at least a +1.
Yeah. You don't want them just to be all basic.
Right.
That'll be noticeable real quick.
Yeah.
Your stuff is all weak to saving throws.
And also, if you're doing that, you can go, okay, these 3 have a +1.
Yeah.
This guy has a +3.
Right.
And I know you're thinking, well, that's only like 2 more points. So roll. It
makes a big difference.
It
honestly.
does. It really does. A +1 is because of the advantage and disadvantage system, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
On this,
I do too.
The idea of +1, the power of a +1, has kind of gone out the window.
Yes.
A little bit. Because that's an extra 5% on a D20.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. But that you can use that to just kind of average out the AC, average out the hit points, and most of the time I find that to be a pretty good balance.
Yeah.
I really do.
I think it's a big waste of time to make full stat blocks for every monster that your party faces. Again, whether you steal the stat blocks the way that I do and warp them, or whether you make the rough stat blocks that Ryan makes, not rough as in bad, rough as in shorthand.
Yeah.
It saves so much time.
It does, and like I said, I'm going to use those for the counters you kind of go through. My big bad, he's going to be something different.
Yeah, that's special.
You're right. You go reskin that big one, right? So I've got both those options there.
Yeah, I'm going to spend a lot more time on that stat block
Right.
than I am on the others.
And because I can take care, because I've taken a shortcut. And look, there's many ways you can take a shortcut.
Oh yeah.
To this.
There's full on encounter builder programs you can use if you pay the money that you can drop it in there and go, I need this kind of encounter, and it just churns it out for you.
Look, and I've done this before. I didn't have anything. We're gonna do a one shot. 2 people weren't showing up. Anyway, we're just gonna do something silly. Do a one shot. Low level, right?
Yeah.
So I had a decent encounter. I ripped off from something else for later on, but I needed a couple something to kind of go through, right? Build up to it. I didn't pick the AC.
Oh no.
Until somebody rolled high. On their attack.
I got you. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And okay, that's where it was.
I've done that before as well.
Yeah. And I've actually changed a thing and did that just because a party was they were having a horrible dice night.
Yeah.
And while that can be funny and makes a game, if you don't get a breakthrough every once in a while, it does kind of drag on you.
Yeah. Well, like we talked about last week, sometimes, we don't fudge the monster, or we don't fudge the die. Mm-hmm. We fudge the monster sometimes.
Truth.
But, man, I did want to mention, too, when we talk about balancing encounters and difficulties and everything, it is not to kill the players.
Right.
It is not ever to, well, I'm going to beat them. It is always to, I'm going to make a challenge that's fun, or I'm going to make a challenge that's interesting.
I can understand the wanting to get in that mindset.
Yeah.
Just step away from the table.
Yeah.
Take a week off from, don't run that week.
Because I get it. You made a really cool monster, and the party devastated it, or you made a cool monster and they didn't fight it,
or there was something
they dropped a ceiling on it instead.
Yeah, something somewhere else. They circumvented it. It didn't go
right
into it, and
don't get vindictive.
Right, and because your players sometimes are going to get excited, especially when they start getting excited about the characters and what they can be able to do.
Yeah,
it can sometimes, and some players will want to outsmart the DM.
Yes, that is, if you have somebody like that at your table and you're the DM running it, you need to have a discussion with them.
Yeah.
Because there's no fun in from either side.
Right.
In the DM's trying to kill me, I'm gonna outsmart him.
Yeah.
Because the player feels attacked anytime something happens to their character.
Right.
And the DM feels like, well, they're not having fun because they think I'm trying to hurt them.
Right. And really, as much planning as you can do as a DM, something as simple as a dice roll could throw it off.
Yeah.
Also,
the reason why, and I'm not trying to speak for you, but I know this is truth because you're a dungeon master.
Right.
The reason why we have developed these shorthand methods of making encounters is because you never know what the party's going to do.
Right.
They may say, well, yeah, next week we're going to go and do this thing. And you're like, all right, I got a week to get this together. Mm-hmm. No problem. Everything's going great. And then at the start of the next session, somebody goes, well, we could do that, but this other NPC mentioned this, so let's go do that first. And it's like, all right, well, I better make those encounters real quick.
Yeah. and listen, it can go like this. Okay. They're planning on heading west.
Yeah.
That's what they said. They've got something over there. So as you start your rest, the road runs east to west as you step out from the inn.
Yeah.
As you look towards the east, you see a lonely tree standing at,
Yeah.
Then you go on, expecting to, what's up with the tree?
Yep.
He mentioned the tree. There's got to be something with the tree. There's really not anything with the tree.
No, it's just flavor.
Yeah. No. There's something with the tree. I know there's something with the tree.
Yeah, always.
So your adventure becomes the tree. It
just
happens.
It leads to a fight with ants that you hadn't planned on at the start of the session, and
right. So you need to start asking for AC and hit points. And it's a funny thing,
It's also what makes D&D
great. It does, because you will, as a DM, you'll go along. You'll be telling this, because you're telling the story.
Yeah.
And there's parts where you're going to be filling in.
Right.
You're telling. You're setting up. And then there's parts with that, but you'll inflect on something.
Yeah.
In your little story thing, you'll say something.
Yeah.
Or there's something that you just as a DM personally like that's in your world.
Yeah,
it's not going to affect anything.
Yeah.
You just like it.
I
and you
made this
put it
cool
in.
scorpion monster that I never thought they would run into.
Yeah.
And I put it in the menagerie because I was like, hey, I'm proud of this dumb scorpion monster that I made that can
Yeah.
kill people by looking into their eyes. Who's going to look into a scorpion's eyes? My players.
Right.
That's who.
That's it. Exactly. Yeah.
I do feel like I need to warn any new DMs as well. And I will say, I'm going to talk about racism for a second, but not for the reason you think. If you make a racist NPC, I would recommend that you have a stat block ready for that racist NPC.
Yeah.
Because I have never yet had a racist NPC, because racism is in my worlds, right?
Right.
It's a thing I don't think should be shied away from personally. I don't want to get too political here, but I think it's something that is important to talk about and to denounce. And so racism is in my worlds, right?
Gotcha.
And whenever I make a racist NPC, I always have a stat block ready because that racist NPC never survives the campaign.
Right.
Either he gets attacked at some point by the players when they think they can get away with it and nobody will notice. They hire somebody to kill him. It
or they blast him on the spot.
always happens.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. I don't blame them.
No,
But
I don't either. And
you gotta have it ready.
I know you're gonna say yes, and that's good advice. And look, you gotta have evil in the world.
Yeah.
And
If you make a slaver, have a stat block ready.
yeah.
And I'm not trying to
Well,
make light of any of these things.
No,
But
not
if
at
you're
all.
going to make an NPC that is doing something obviously evil, and this is
Yeah.
for any NPC,
Yeah.
have a stat block ready because your party's probably going to kill them.
Right.
And that doesn't mean you don't make them,
Well,
but it means you just be prepared.
in the world I'm running on Monday,
Yeah.
there's a tiefling in the party.
Yeah.
And she's accepted in many places.
Yeah.
But there's still those people.
Yeah.
She's a druid. There's a thing. She helps out.
Right.
Kind of takes care of the forest with the town by.
Yeah,
so-
absolutely.
But yeah, there's those people. But it drives her character.
Yeah.
Too. There's kind of a weird tangent to get on, but one of the most interesting forms of that I found in literature is in Stephen King's Gunslinger series.
Yeah.
The character Dead Walker, and
Yep.
I love Idris Elba.
Yeah.
And when I heard he was a gunslinger, I knew they weren't doing the gunslinger
Yeah.
because it affects the story.
Yeah, it does.
And Dead Walker is such an amazing character.
Yeah.
And the walkthrough that goes between Roland, Eddie, and
Yeah.
and Dead
Absolutely.
would not be near as powerful
Right.
if it wasn't for those themes.
Yeah, I agree.
And the stuff that they have to work out.
Yeah.
Out of,
Well,
and so it's not so evil, dark stuff. Be careful with it, but
Yeah.
it drives the campaign.
Yeah.
The when y'all broke into the prison.
Yeah.
That was dark evil
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
going on in there.
There's no question in my mind. You had a stat block ready for all of
Yeah.
those people that ran that place.
Yes.
Because as soon as I saw them, as soon as
Yeah.
Din saw them,
Yeah.
my character, all those people had to die. That's
Well-
just the way it was.
Yeah.
You can't get away with what you have done at that point.
Right.
And I think I have played characters that were slaves. I have played characters that were beaten down by
Yeah.
different groups.
Yeah.
And you absolutely can do that and have some great stories. It's also okay if you don't. But if you do and you make an NPC that is that, be prepared for the players to
Yeah.
kill them.
Well, and for some people, they're not going to want that.
Yeah.
And
That's a session 0 discussion.
the session 0 discussion, and it's cool because you can just have the monsters be monsters.
Yeah.
None of the playable races, all of them get
Yeah,
along.
you can have all of them be fine.
all of them be
right.
fine, and have monsters.
Yeah.
The monsters are monsters, and they are born of evil.
Yeah.
Everything that they're going to fight is born from the abyss and darkness of evil.
Sure. Yeah. You can go that way for
There
sure.
is no gray area. There's no gray zone, and in a way, I know people may not understand this, but in a way, that's kind of what Dragonlance was.
Yeah, for sure.
to have a clear cut
line. Yeah.
clear cut kind of line of good and evil. It's not there in Forgotten Realms.
Right.
There's a big gray area in Forgotten Realms.
I feel like I need to also warn new DMs about this one. Nowhere near as dark, but you need to be ready for it anyway. Because I've been on both sides. Rundgren, you have as well. If you make a butler, if you make someone who runs an orphanage, if you make a priest, and you don't do enough to make sure the party knows that priest is a good guy, if you make a grave digger,
Yeah.
or if you make a vampire, you need to have a stat block for all of them. And you say, no, Trey, you're just being silly. You're trying to bring the mood back. I'm being serious.
Yeah, because your players and always remember, your players are going to figure you out sometimes.
Yes.
And there is, or we'll say, I'm never playing against my players, but it's very gratifying for me to bring my twist in.
Yeah.
And see which one happened recently.
Yeah.
And see it dawning on the faces of, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes your players are going to figure out, but a lot of times your players have no idea what's going on in your head.
Quick aside, if you're one of the players at the table that it dawns on you, don't immediately blurt out what it is.
Right.
It's so much more satisfying for you to go, oh, and then not say anything.
Yeah.
Because then everybody else goes, what happened? What did I not notice? What do I need to pay attention
or
to?
at least let the DM finish the scene.
Yes, 100%. Please continue your thought. I'm sorry. I just wanted to call that out there.
You know, that kind of goes in with it. You know, you remember as a DM that they don't know, and that works in so many things.
Yeah,
you're using so many skills in D&D that you don't realize cross over to other ones. Okay,
right.
That one right there, that is an art you will use, understanding what you know and what the players don't. Right?
Yes.
Or the other people don't. The audience don't.
Yeah.
Magicians of Masters of Ledger Domain, hand, been using that forever. Con men, been using that forever. Salesmen,
yeah.
You know, the list goes on and on.
Oh, for sure.
For good and for bad.
Right.
You know, for good and for bad, and that's just it's one of those skills, and it's something that you'll have to think because. A lot of times you're going to go with a generic story or something kind of thing. And you're like, they're going to figure this out right at right as I get going. But we're going to just go with it anyway because they don't know what you're thinking.
Right.
You may be ripping straight off King Arthur and the Round Table per se, but if you play it right and do it right until you have them take a seat at the Round Table, it's not going to dawn on them.
That's right.
You know, because they don't know what's going on in your head.
That's right. And that's also why they will be suspicious of everything.
Of everything, yeah.
That's
where the conflict is. That's where there's a little competition between the DM and the players. And it's not about getting one over on the other.
That's right.
Or beating the other. You know, it's about it's the puzzle. We're gonna figure it's the game.
Yeah.
Or we're gonna figure it out.
So I have to ask, maybe you can tell me, because I understand why the Gravedigger, right?
Yeah.
The Gravedigger is the bad guy, and the Butler, sure, I get it.
Yeah.
So often in movies, they're the villain. And so as soon as a player gets introduced to a creepy Gravedigger, it's, well, is this guy?
Yeah.
Is this guy the one who killed the guy in the village that we're trying to find? Well, the Butler did it, for sure. It was the priest. He's not as good as he pretends to be.
Yeah.
Why the man who runs the orphanage or the little old lady who runs the orphanage?
Skyrim.
Is it the same thing?
Skyrim.
Oh, you're so right. You're so right. I've been sitting here going, like, I went down the list and then my brain went, but why the orphanage though?
Skyrim. Blame it all on Bethesda.
Because again, like, that's what they do. If you introduce a shopkeep and that shopkeep isn't immediately friendly, why is the shopkeep like that? Is the shopkeep working for the bad guy?
Yeah.
Well, no, obviously he's not, but maybe he is now that you brought it up because I see an opportunity for a plot thread.
Yeah. As you approach, what was the one I saw the other day? As you approach the warehouse, you feel like you're being watched. Warehouse? Is that like a werewolf, but it turns into a house? It is now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just your players are always suspicious of everything.
Mm-hmm.
You can use that for so many cool things.
I some of my favorite are like when you hear a player's discussion
Yeah.
and you're like, I have no way thought that deep.
Yeah.
I don't have. I am no. That is beyond the level of anything I have put together. I wish I would have thought of that. I can't do that now.
Yes,
If
yes.
but
Because now they know.
yeah, but man, that was amazing. They should be a DM.
I think my favorite I ever saw was we were in a dungeon and I was running for a party of 5. And the puzzle that I had set up for them was that they had to open the door, Resident Evil style, right?
Yeah.
Take a gem that is an eye and slot it in there and then
Right.
the door open.
Yeah.
They hadn't found the gem, but one of them went, can I do a investigation on that hole and see exactly how big it is? Like, sure, yeah, absolutely you can. He said, well, that's about the same size as the gem in the fighter's sword, right? Well, yeah, in the pommel of his sword, it's about the same size. Can I use my thieves' tools to dig that gem out of this
Nice.
pommel? Fighter was like, I'll allow it. Like, yeah, give me a roll. Rolled well, slotted
Go
the gem
for it.
out of there, put it right in there. The door had no way to know. It wasn't
Right.
enchanted. It
Yeah,
just
no,
needed
no,
something
no.
to fit the slot.
Right.
So they got to go through, and I was like, that's
Yeah.
so much smarter than I ever would have considered to take your own gem. That's
Yeah.
not how that works, you know?
But it did.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's something else I wanted to DM, and I know we're getting up past an hour now.
Yeah.
The what you'll run into is that, right? Okay, what a great idea,
Yeah.
man. If he gets over, what do you do for a difficulty check? I would think, man, if he rolled over 10 for sure.
I did a 15
Okay.
for the investigation check
Oh no,
to be able to see the
for thieves'
slotting.
tools.
For the thieves' tools, I did a 10, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Nice.
he's good with those things. He's proficient.
absolutely, cool.
He knows what he's doing. The fighter's allowing it. Go for it. The investigation was more difficult to see if another gem would fit.
Yeah,
In order to see what the
understand that.
size was. But
yes,
absolutely, yeah.
yeah. No, that was cool. The and you hear say this a lot as we kind of wrap this up because we got it. We want people to play.
Yeah.
And we don't want you to feel like you have to wait for next week to well, I need more of the world
Yeah.
to go because that's not what we're setting up.
Right.
Now,
If you want more.
yeah, if you want more, please ask for more, and we'll try to fill in as
Or
much
you
as
want
possible.
another one?
Yeah, another one, something different. We'll definitely touch on any topics.
1950s detective world.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. I would have to, yeah. Sorry, going off and think about other
Detective
things.
Warren Monroe.
Right. I'd have to max paint it just the whole time.
Yeah. It's
Casablanca.
all in sepia tone.
Casablanca, something. Go through that.
It was a long day.
But
Please continue. I'm
right,
sorry.
the just take the minimum that you understand.
Yeah.
And work with that.
Right.
If you need your first players to be, in a fort out in a wasteland,
Yeah.
there's them 4, and you have 2 NPCs to worry about. Start with that.
Yeah.
We hopefully, if nothing else, we've shown that with a little, a spark, a couple of cheat notes.
Yeah.
That, man, you can go anywhere with this.
Oh, for sure. You can take this world that we've made and you can just flip it on its head and spin it around and make your own thing.
So, with that in mind, what I was talking about earlier when you finished talking about the bard, the new bard school, because there's so much out there,
Right.
and the new one coming out is Ravenloft. Well,
yeah.
not Ravenloft, but
Yeah.
basically it's a Shadow Realm
Yeah.
guide to Ravenloft. D&D in their naming. If you want to start spending money,
Yeah.
on it here and there, whether you go get the book, hardback book, or you start spending it on D&D, let's say you wait until, because that's coming out soon.
Yeah. 18th of May.
Okay, coming out soon. You wait till that comes out. You've got our world to start with.
Yeah.
Maybe ones that maybe the underside there is vampires.
Yeah,
And you don't have to use you don't have to use the names in the book,
that's right.
but you use all the concepts there.
Yeah,
And
they've
you
got
have
full maps in there you can use and everything.
right, and then you got two new classes, two new subclasses, right?
Yeah.
You can throw in with your basic rules.
And get your undead warlock to be roving around under there. That'd
Right.
be great.
Yeah, is a lot, or go with something a little more classic. You with Xanathars.
Yeah.
Or there, you can, like I said, if you're on D&D Beyond, if you want, you can go through and pick and choose. Okay, I want to add this class, this subclass,
Right. Absolutely.
this race to my world.
If you're a DM,
Just that.
maybe thinking about getting Volos.
Yeah,
Volos
absolutely.
has so many monsters in there.
Yeah,
And again, like I was talking about earlier, the way that I homebrew monsters, the more stat blocks I can get my hands on,
yes,
the more monsters I can make.
absolutely. I think we're getting closer when we wrap this up.
Mm-hmm.
There is we do have D&D discussions on the Discord,
Yep.
which you can become a part of for $1 a month.
Mm-hmm. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/thefullspectrum.
There's, if you enjoy video games, just and wild discussions and tangents, Tuesday nights at 7 on Twitch.
Yeah.
Catch the full spectrum there with Pat and Walrus Nostril. Walrus Nostril. Man, Andrew.
Yeah, we have a great time.
You do. I'll be in the chat, watching along. We do have some more things coming up. We'll have some more discussions.
Yeah.
D&D discussions coming up.
We are moving on from Taso.
Yeah, we are moving from Taso.
As Rengren said, but we're not moving on from the podcast. We got more stuff coming.
Yeah. We'll do some more. We'll do some reviews.
Mm-hmm.
What we're gonna start. What we're gonna start talking about now is actually it's gonna cost money.
Yeah.
We're starting to look in the money. It is completely unnecessary,
Right.
but it's nice to have.
Yeah.
So we're gonna kind of go with that vein on it and really start looking at where different things you can get.
Yeah.
What's coming up, and we'll offer advice on, hey, if you got $5, go get maybe these couple subclasses are good or something like that.
You said $5. My first thought was, if you got $5, buy some monsters, man. What do you do?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Get some monsters.
Look, I will admit, my favorite thing about buying new books is monsters.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to admit that.
Yeah.
The classes are great. Subclasses are cool. I get to play so rarely.
Yeah.
That most of the time, I don't even get to touch those.
Well,
right?
also, as we talk about it, Monster Manual is great, and I
Yeah.
don't care what edition you get from. If you can find a 3rd edition, if you can find
Oh,
an old
yeah.
binder for 2nd edition to flip through, just the pictures alone,
Yeah, it's worth it.
it is because you'll be surprised flipping through. You see something cool, and I want to put that in there, and you find a way.
Yeah.
You set up the scene, it kind of comes to mind, and it works in.
Well, and again, if you do homebrew the way that I do, just
Use
seeing
more
that
stat.
monster once,
Yeah.
years later, you go to work on something, you go, man, I need a stat block for something like this. Your brain can go, I've seen that before.
Right.
2nd edition, flip over to it. There we go, stat block.
Just as another reminder, don't forget, man, go look at pictures.
Yeah.
Go look at
Oh.
There is so much homebrew stuff.
Ah,
And look, there is folks out there that love doing that.
Yeah.
And man, these things are illustrated.
mm-hmm.
They look like they're out of the D&D Monster Manual.
Yeah.
And they're actually and it's free out there.
I guess I should announce, I didn't even think about mentioning this to you earlier. We've been talking about homebrewing and monsters. I'm going to be putting my homebrew monster, the Endymion, on D&D Beyond in the homebrew section.
Nice.
Where anybody can use it that wants to. It is a gorilla-like creature with a single eye in the top of a carapace faceplate that the eye has to shift and move between these channels. And when it does, it takes a little bit of time to move. It's not a simple thing,
Yeah.
And it makes a very loud ka-chunk every time it moves. The Endymion has a split spine, so it has the top half and the bottom half with a big red spine in the middle, and it can spin on that spine. Like, this thing is nuts, and I'm so proud of it. So I'm going to be putting it on D&D Beyond in the homebrew section, and I'll put a link to it in this description when it's done.
Awesome. Do that. We'll get We mentioned Discord, mentioned the show. We have some other stuff coming up. We will be doing reviews on some of the new stuff, new D&D stuff coming out, as well as pointing back and talking about some of the stuff that is out.
Yeah.
I
really want to go back to Theros at some point and look at the monsters that were shown off there.
Yeah. Well, I think, when we take it, we'll pick one of them. Like maybe pick that one, pick Xanathars or something a week and kind of go through.
Yeah, I agree.
And maybe point out some, hey, it's worth getting the whole thing.
Yeah.
Got a couple of bucks. Grab these two out of here. These seem to, we'll do more, help you out more than others or whatever.
And I promise at some point we're going to do those class breakdowns. Ooh, baby.
Yeah.
I'm excited to make Rundgren talk about bards for an entire podcast.
But and I think you want to try to do that as like one. You want to do the class, like one class per, as a podcast, right?
Right.
And break down the subclasses and stuff that go underneath.
That was my thought. And then maybe afterwards we can do a special episode on multi-classing and like what good combinations are. Absolutely. After we've gone through them all.
Oh man, God, so much.
I'm excited for that too because I think we might find some new subclass combinations that we hadn't thought about before. After going through them all.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, especially because there's so much that we don't use.
Roguelock.
Yeah.
Arcane Trickster Rogue. Undead Warlock. Hold on. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Put my familiar next to him and then I explode.
Right. I'm making necromancer, wizard, warlock, undead.
Hey. That could be really dang cool.
Well, you're gonna have followers as well, and and you can explode.
Let me just turn into the Demi Lich.
All right, it'd be fun. It'd be
the party
exciting.
Will love it.
We will be talking about some other systems as well.
Yeah, we got some stuff coming up.
Yeah, we've actually got stuff coming in.
Yes.
So we'll flip through and give some reviews.
It's almost time.
It would be, I guess those would count as what retro reviews, classic reviews in a way. With the year out.
Although the one that I'm going to be talking about is a little bit newer because it's the second edition of the thing.
Yeah, but it's still quite old.
Yeah, it's still pretty old.
Yeah, I do believe it is.
I don't know if we should review that or reveal that or just let it be a secret.
Just let it be. We do need a word for the comments, though. If everybody listens.
That's true.
For the one person that listens to us.
Do we want to go with something based on the Ravenloft stuff? Do we want to say that our word is Strahd?
Okay, but not Strahd.
Lestrade? Inspector Lestrade?
Oh, yes. Perfect.
Can we replace Strahd with Lestrade?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Next time we run Barovia.
Yeah.
You come to meet the vampire lord. Mr. Holmes, are you here?
I'll try to help, sir.
I'll go back to Scotland Yard, I will.
Oh, man.
That's your word, Lestrade.
Oh, yeah. Lestrade. It absolutely is. Oh,
well, with all that said then, I have been Trey.
I have been Rundgren.
And we've been the Full Spectrum D&D podcast. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that the D&D world that we have made, also regular Dungeons & Dragons, has to offer.